कार्ड कार्ड आपके अच्छा अच्छा
A very warm and delightful morning to everyone. I feel immense joy and profound honor in welcoming you all to today's event. On behalf of Graphic Era University, I welcome our distinguished guests, esteemed dignitaries, devoted faculty members, and enthusiastic students to today's Amrit Kaal Vimarsh talk. The Amrit Kaal Vimarsh is an activity that is initiative of AICTE and the Ministry of Education that discusses the transformational changes that will lay the foundation of achieving the goal of developed India by year 2047. It is a matter of great pleasure and pride for us that Graphic Era University is one of the selected higher educational institutes which is a part of the series of seminars planned by the Ministry of Education, Government of India under Amrit Kaal Vimarsh, Viksit Bharat 2047. On this momentous occasion, we have the privilege of having amongst us Dr. Sanjeev Chopra, retired IAS and former Director LBSNAA, whose contributions and achievements during his service have left an indelible mark on our society. Now I invite our guests, Dr. Sanjeev Sir, VC Sir Dr. Narvinder Singh, VC Sir GHU Dr. Jasola Sir, to please take their seats on the stage. Please, sir. Before moving further, let us all seek blessings from our Saraswati and proceed with the lamp lighting ceremony. So please. Now I request Honorable VC Sir Dr. Narvinder Singh to honor Dr. Sanjeev Chopra with a bouquet as a token of our love and appreciation towards him. Thank you, sir. Now I invite Professor Dr. MP Singh, Department of Management Studies, Graphic Era University, to deliver his welcome address.
Namaskar. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable Dr. Sanjeev Chopra Ji, former Director of LBSNAA, personality of eminence, delivery, commitment, and of course, always a smiling and guiding face for people like us. Professor Napinder Singh, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Graphic Era deemed to be University. Professor Sanjay Jasola, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Graphic Era, Hill University. My fellow colleagues, the budding business navigators, students and friends. आजादी का अमृत काल और उस पर विमर्श। अल्लामा इकबाल की कुछ पंक्तियां याद आती हैं, and with your permission, sir, that यूनानो मिस्र रोमा सब मिट गए जहां से, लेकिन अभी है बाकी नामो निशा हमारा। कुछ बात है कि हस्ती मिटती नहीं हमारी, सदियों रहा है दुश्मन दौरे जहां हमारा, सारे जहां से अच्छा हिंदुस्तान हमारा, हम बुलबुलें हैं इसकी। This happens to be, this used to be, and this will remain the essence of we the people of Bharat. हिंदुस्तान महज एक मुल्क नहीं है, हिंदुस्तान एक सभ्यता है, हिंदुस्तान एक संस्कृति है, हिंदुस्तान एक जीवंत उदाहरण है मानवता का. And all of us, we should be proud of being an Indian, being a human par excellence, being a human being, being a country that has shown the path of light and life to the civilizations of the world. I extend a very warm welcome. It is a personal, esteemed pleasure and privilege to extend a very warm welcome to Dr. Sanjeev Chopra, IAS, former Director of LBSNAA. He has served the nation in various capacities, ladies and gentlemen, and you can see that the smiling face today with bubbling energy is a true reflection of his commitment towards the cause of humanity. A huge round of applause for him as well. It has been a privilege for me that I have seen him during his most powerful days, walking in Bandgala, in the Charlie Villa compound of the campus, talking to the young and bubbling administration people, the budding district magistrates and collectors of the country, and the Indira Bhavan at Mussoorie. Dear friends, it used to be a huge amount of learning. Vivekananda has said that all 13 elements of nature should be the source of learning, and believe me that Sir has been one of the elements that I have learned today from. Sir, indebted to have you here amongst us. On behalf of Graphic Era fraternity, on behalf of management, on behalf of the founder president of Graphic Era, Professor Kamal Grimshala, and the entire fraternity of Graphic Era group of institutions, I take this as a matter of privilege and pride to extend a very warm welcome to you, sir. My dear friends, let me promise you on his behalf, since I have learned a lot from him, and I must tell you that it's going to be a unique learning opportunity. I wish that each one of us should learn at least, he is a man of more than hundreds of trades, at least one trade that you should be able to, if not follow, immediately copy it. Immediately copy it. It's going to be a learning for lifelong. And mind it, when we will leave this hall, we will be a different kind of audience, enlightened, educated. And more so, you will feel a different kind of individual in yourself. A man with mammoth experience, knowledge, excellent, rather exceptional writing and oratory skills. He is going to take you to a journey that why we are called the state of India, why we are called Bharat, why we are different from others, what are our distinguishers, and what makes us so especially stronger and stronger and stronger. With these words, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to you once again, sir. It's a privilege that we are running with you once again. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I would like to invite Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Narpinder Singh, for the inaugural address.
A very good morning to all of you. Today we are honored to have Dr. Sanjeev Chopra Ji. Dear Dr. Sanjeev Chopra Ji, Vice Chancellor of Yale University, our deans, Dr. M.P. Singh, head of the department, students, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, if we see, all of you are very young students, and after about 24, 25 years, what would be the vision, what would be how our country would look like, what would be the challenges. This is basically the topic of today's talk. And Dr. Sanjeev Chopra Ji, I would like to briefly tell you about his contribution during the last 35, 40 years, maybe, because I am 1 year younger to him, so I remember that I have contributed for 35 years, so he is 36 years. Dr. Sanjeev Chopra Ji born on 1961 in Kapurthala, Punjab, and he is a retired IAS officer from 1985 batch, and he has done his, the studies at Amrit Kaal College, Jalandhar, basically. And already Dr. M.P. Singh has mentioned that he is the former director of Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy of Administration, and during that period he has played a significant role in shaping India's administrative landscape. In 2022, he showcased his intellectual ability by authoring the book, We the People of States of Bharat, the Making and Remaking of India, Internal Boundaries. Dr. Sanjeev Chopra Ji has expanded his influence beyond the realm of bureaucracy and academy, beyond the kingdom of bureaucracy. He has also contributed in different fields. He currently serves as a patron and honorary consultant to the Valley of Words International Literary Festival, and it is a very prestigious event, and now it is being organized in December 16 and 17, yes, in Dehradun. He has been honored with Hubbard H. Humphrey Fellowship at Cornell University and the Robert S. McNamara Fellowship at the World Bank. It's a very prestigious fellowship which was awarded to him. He has also had distinguished positions of renowned institutes like the Royal Asiatic Society in London and the Lakshmi Mittal and Family South Asia Institute at Harvard. He has also contributed to the field of journalism, where he worked for the Economic Times before he joined civil services. His academic journey began at Amrit Kaal College, Jalandhar, where he laid down the foundation of the academic and literary pursuits, and the first book written by him in 1978, X2C. Am I right, sir? This was the first book he wrote in 1978. And he has contributed during his young age to the college magazine, number of articles he has written, and in local radio stations he has also delivered some the talks at a very young age, right, when he was in college. So he will be today speaking about what will you see in next 20-25 years, the Bharat. And briefly, in next 24 years, when you will join some institutions, you may be the entrepreneurs, the biggest challenge in front of India would be that the population. Now we have 1.43 billion people today, and in next 20-25 years, the Indian population would be 1.64 billion, and it will be a great challenge how to feed them, how to manage them, how to provide the healthcare services to them. It will be a great challenge in front of all of you. Then another, already poverty is another, naturally you have to have the employment for all these peoples. And if we see the employment is at present around 8%. In 2010, it was only 5.5% unemployment. Now we have large number of people unemployed. So poverty, of course, you have to increase the productivity of agriculture, because if next 20-25 years, if you are going to add 300-400 million people, that is the population of whole America today, then how you are going to feed them. It means you need to increase the productivity of agriculture. You need to manage the resources is a great challenge. How to sustain our resources, because our soils are depleting, water resources are depleting, whether we will be able to increase the productivity by 20-30% in the next 20-25 years to feed 1.6 billion people is a great challenge. The quality education is also a great challenge. To provide the quality education, what is required in next 20-25 years, right? Now we have the gross enrollment of students is around 24%, and naturally 26-27% gross enrollment means how many people join the higher education. So it is also has to be increased. If we see healthcare is also a great challenge. Now we are spending about 1.8 to 2% on the healthcare of its GDP, right? It would be also required to enhance that structure, buildings, environment sustainability. We are talking about that, reduce the pollution of water, pollution of air. We have to make our environment sustainable. Then we need to have the agriculture reforms, energy security. Already people have started reduce the emission of greenhouse gases. So there will be another challenge of the energy security. So all these issues are there. Then of course, as computer engineering students, number of us are sitting here, so we have to transform our cyber security and digital transformation would be required. So all these foreign policies needs to be redesigned, because in order to maintaining the stability and peace in our region, right, we have to navigate the complex international relationship. That is also very important. So with this, these are the few challenges. Now I will look forward, as all of you are eagerly waiting to listen Dr. Sanjeev Chopra Ji. I would like to request him to address the gathering.
Good morning, friends. The
distinguished Vice Chancellors Narpender Singh Ji and Sanjeev Chopra, Dean MP Singh, Dean of Life Sciences, fellow students, friends. I'm a student myself, so in fact, all of us are students. The day you stop being a student, you're gone. So as long as you're a student, as long as you're wearing your university tags, as long as you're going to the library or going to the internet for things other than Bollywood and Tollywood, you will remain eternally young. Okay, so as Professor MP Singh was talking about, Iqbal's famous things about Hindustan Hamara, so I'm glad because my very next slide is going to be about, do I have a, yeah, you do it, yeah, next one. In fact, it's very nice, it's very good because I'm glad that he brought in Hindustan because India, Bharat and Hindustan, these are the three names of our country. And in fact, we are a great country because we are perhaps the only country which is known by so many names, right? And all of us in India have a pet name and a real name, so many of us have 2 or 3 names also. I mean, one name with which your mother and your family recognizes you, one name which your class fellows give you, which is meant only for your class fellows, and one name which is given to you by the university professors, which is there on your Aadhaar card. So you have 3 names. All of us are used to many names in our thing, and all of them reflect different personalities. So you see, the important thing to understand is that how do you know that you are different from the rest? You see, and that is what I thought. Let's look, we are all familiar with how diverse we are. And in fact, our national anthem says it all. Our national anthem is a great national anthem because it says, Punjab, Sindh, Gujarat, Maratha, Dravid, Utkal, Bandh. So we are diverse. We are very diverse. And our national anthem, you have to compare your national anthem with, say, the national anthem of our neighbors. I mean, the national anthem of Bangladesh only talks about Amar Sonar Pamal. Right, so the good thing is that their national anthem and our national anthem are both written by Rabindranath Tagore. Pakistan could have adopted the national anthem which was written by Iqbal, but they were a bit upset because we had not given up Iqbal as a poet of India also, therefore Pakistan got a bit cheesed. They said, how can we have a national anthem which also celebrates Hindustan Hamara. So they changed that, and the first national anthem of Pakistan was actually written by a Hindu, by the name of Azhar. But then they said, how can a Hindu write the national anthem of Pakistan? So they set up a committee. So any national anthem which is made by a committee, what happens when you have a committee? When you have a committee, you got a lot of good elements, but then you lose the sense of it because a committee can only create yet another committee. And the national anthem of Pakistan is in Farsi. I mean, the only Urdu word in the national anthem is ka. And that national anthem, if you look at it and if you compare it, and it's an internet exercise that you must do, compare the national anthem of India and the national anthem of Pakistan and you realize why India is India and why we will continue to grow. Why there will be an Amrit Kaal for us. Because a nation which celebrates its diversity, a nation which says that it is right to be a Punjabi and right to be an Indian. It's fine to be a Bengali and fine to be an Indian. It is fine to have multiple identities. That country will always do well and will always be on the ascendant. When you are drowned, as Tagore had said, when you are, let not your nation be bound into narrow domestic walls. Into that veil of freedom, my father, let my country. So that was him. But still I said, as MP Singh Ji was also saying, what is it that makes us different? After all, it's very clear that we are not Europeans. We are not Arabs. We are not Africans. There is something different about being Indian, about being Bharati, about being a Hindustani. Now that is, as he said, perhaps a common civilizational core. It's perhaps the fact that we celebrate our diversities, we celebrate our languages, we celebrate our traditions, and we celebrate multiple faiths. Remember, see, look at our national anthem very closely. When you say, Punjab, Sindh, Gujarat, Maratha. As a Punjabi, you can be a Hindu, you can be a Sikh, you could be a non-believer, you could be an atheist, you could be a Muslim. It doesn't matter. You're a Punjabi. A Bengali can be a Hindu, a Bengali can be a Christian, he could be an agnostic, he could be a communist, he could be a Marxist, he could be an atheist, he could be a revolutionary, So, Punjab, Sindh, Gujarat, Maratha, this does not reflect our denominational status. It reflects our vibrant language, it reflects our vibrant geography. And that's something that we all must always be proud of. In fact, somebody asked me the other day, that after all Sindh is not in India, so how do you, I said, but all the money is with the Sindhis. So Sindh is very much a part of India. I mean, the biggest entrepreneurs of this country, the Ambanis, the Danis, everybody, all of them have some connection with Sindh. So in any case, in Punjab, we have a Punjab and Sindh bank as well. So, and Sindhi is recognized as a national language, and there are 5 states in the country which have a Sindhi academy, but that apart. Now I want you to look at what Ambedkar said about nationalism. You see, because why I have quoted Ambedkar? Because Ambedkar is today the most non-divisive figure in this country. All other figures have become partly divisive, right? I mean, in the sense that there will be some people who will say that, what the fact is that there are people who are very happy with Nehru, there are people who are very critical of Nehru. And same holds true with Mahatma Gandhi. There are people who are enamored by Mahatma Gandhi, and there are people who felt that he was too much of a pacifist, that he did not do this, that he did not intervene at the time of Bhagat Singh, that he was too soft to Pakistan. So there are many versions of Mahatma Gandhi as well. But Ambedkar, he gave us the constitution, he fought for freedom, he fought for rights. There are many things. You see, unfortunately, we've also cloaked Ambedkar into a very narrow slot. Ambedkar was one of the brightest and one of the most erudite and one of the most well-read political leaders of this country. He was more well-read than Nehru. He was more well-read than Gandhi, than Patel, because Patel, they were all lawyers. But he had a PhD from America, he had a PhD from England, a very erudite scholar, and I want you to read what he said about nationhood. And, to quote, he says, nationality is a subjective psychological feeling. And it's not something that you can buy. It's not a Cadbury's chocolate or a Kumar Sweets ki gaye or 10 rupee di or chocolate le liya. The feeling of pride, the goosebumps that you get when the Chandrayaan lands on the moon, the goosebumps that you get when India wins, or the sorrow that you feel when you nearly miss a match, the excitement. I think all of us are happy when Neeraj Chopra throws his javelin. All of us, when the Fogart sisters do something great. It's a collective sense of pride. And that sense of pride happens because it's a feeling of a corporate sentiment of oneness which makes those charged with it feel that they are kith and kin. This national feeling is also double-edged. It's at once a feeling of fellowship of one's own kith and kin and also an anti-fellowship for those who are not you. Right? So you are close because somebody is not close to you. So that aspect is also there, which we have to keep in mind. So it goes on to say, it's a longing to belong to one's group and a longing not to belong to another group. This is the essence of what is nationality and a national feeling. Right? Now friends, again as I said, a nation is not something that is out there. It is not something which cannot change over time. It's not like Taj Mahal or Qutub Minar or Kamakhya Mandir or the Datkali Mandir or the Ram Darbar here. It is something which is organic. Things which are organic will either grow, will either be evolving, or they will not be evolving. As Bob Dylan had said, if you're not busy living, you're busy dying. So a nation will continue to grow, and a nation evolves. Great nations are those which continue to evolve. Sridharnath Banerjee was the third person to join the ICS. Later on was removed from the ICS, became the president of the Indian National Congress, started a newspaper called The Bengali, and he wrote a book in 1910 or 1912, which was called A Nation in the Making. Because he felt that the Indian nation is being made, that the Indian nation is yet in the process of development, because the newspaper that he started was called The Bengali. The newspaper with Tilak started was called The Maratha. The newspaper with Dayal Singh Majithia started in Punjab was called The Tribune. Lajpat Rai started a paper called The Punjabi. These were different elements in different parts of the country, all moving towards the Indian nation, developing towards the Indian nation. And today, we don't have to say India is a nation in the making. Today we say that India is a nation, or the nation has been made, and therefore that is what we celebrate. Now, there are many kinds of nations, and there are many kinds of states. There are small states, there are big states, there are humongous states like USSR. In fact, some states have failed, like USSR no longer is USSR. It does have Russia, and then now they're having a fight there. But let's examine, it's very easy to say, who makes a nation? In my definition, this is the alphabet, this is the nation building alphabet. Next slide, please. पीछे आ गया, आगे चलिए. Next. No, go ahead. Yeah, this is it. So in my view, everybody makes a nation. Authors, architects, engineers, poets, pilots, all of us make the nation. It is wrong to say that the nation is made only by politicians, or that the nation is made only by judges, or that the nation is made only by army men. All of us make a nation. And if you exclude anyone, because, remember that you lose battles because you have a weak stirrup. Anything that is weak will make your nation small. Therefore, keep on adding to this list. I have just mentioned authors, orators, bankers, CS, doctors, engineers, entrepreneurs, farmers, foresters, but you keep on adding to this list. Everybody who lives and contributes to this country helps us make the nation, right? Now, how do you measure the success of a nation? You see, these days, you have the NAAC accreditation, so somebody tells you are A++, somebody tells you are A+, and somebody tells you you're B+, and then there is a fight, Bihar government is saying, why have I not been given that B+, so they said we'll have our own. Excuse me, sir, may I request you, may I request you to please, either complete your conversation. It's slightly distracting for the person who speaks. I'm sorry about this, but it's important. See, how do you measure the success of a nation? Because one way to measure the success of a nation is to say that, what is your SDG score? You can say, what is your ease of doing business score? But nations will not agree on what is the SDG score and thing, because somebody will say that it's your SDG score, versus my SDG score. So I was trying to look at how nations look at themselves. So there are nations. Let's move on, sir. Why don't you give it to me? No, this will give me this. Okay, this is it. There are nations which are very strong militarily, but which have a weak political economy. Take the case of Russia. Now, Russia is a very strong military power, but Russia is not very strong in terms of its political economy. Right? Everybody thought that Russia will have a walkover in Ukraine. It's been over a year, right? And Russia, has not been able to make much dent in Ukraine. You have North Korea, which is a nuclear power, but nobody wants to indulge with North Korea. Nobody wants to talk to North Korea. When you look at Korea, we only think of South Korea. We don't, all the Korean pop and all the movies and all the things that you see, that is all comes from South Korea. It doesn't come from North Korea. Right? So you have states like that. Then you have Pakistan, They are countries which have a military punch. They have very strong militaries, but they have very weak political systems. And we have to examine why is it that they have weak political systems. Pakistan, for instance, spent 3% of its GDP on defense. We spend only 2%, less than 2% of our GDP on defense. Now, you might say, what is the difference between 3% and 2%, but you're talking here about trillions of dollars, And in any case, you're talking about $400 billion of Pakistan versus $3 trillion of India. So even then, if your GDP is strong, then even your 2% would be much higher than somebody else's 3%, because the base of that 3% is in billions. And the base of that 2% is in trillions. Then you have nations with a strong army, advanced political economy, perpetual insecurity like Israel. It's a very strong economy, very strong. Their IT is well developed, everything is well developed. They can do whatever they want. And yet they cannot get international support. Today the UN Secretary General has said that perhaps what Hamas did was right. It's a very controversial subject. Let's not get into that. But the fact is that Israel finds it very difficult to make friends, because you cannot make friends if you are surrounded by enemies, and if you take somebody's land, you cannot be at peace. Right? Therefore, land cannot give you peace. That's a very important understanding. On that, we will all agree that Israel does not have friends in the neighborhood. Israel can have friends in the US of A. Israel has friends with UK. Rishi Sunak would go there. But no king of Jordan, no president of Egypt, nobody in the neighborhood is ever going to go and say hello to an Israeli soldier. Then, we have countries which have very strong economies. Japan, for example, is today the world's third largest economy. But does it count for anything politically? Politically and militarily. It doesn't count for anything, right? You have Singapore, which has done so well, but we never have a naval exercise. In fact, Switzerland doesn't really have a navy, but in the sense, you get what I'm trying to say. Then you have nations which have a very strong resource base. The Sultanate of Brunei, the richest country in the world. per capita running into, multiple times what we can ever think of. Brunei, the Duchy of Luxembourg. I mean, small city-states, slightly bigger than the graphic era campuses. Metaphorically speaking, if you put both your campuses together, I mean, if you were in Europe, you could have, declared your own country and, and maybe something called the graphic land or something. Okay. I'm not suggesting that we do it. But if you do it, you can make me the honorary consul general, Okay. And then you have failed or nearly failed states. I mean, Syria, Lebanon, Libya, they're states. I mean, their embassies are bound up. Afghanistan embassy doesn't know, the diplomat don't know whether they represent the old regime or the new regime. The Afghanistan embassy is shut down because the diplomats who are posted here, the Taliban doesn't recognize them, they don't recognize Taliban. So they're failed states. Pakistan might well be on its verge of being a failed state. We hope that it does not fail, because having a failed state as a neighbor is a very big problem. It's better to deal with somebody you can deal with rather than have a chaos with which you cannot deal with anyone. And then you have expansionist nations like China. I want to talk about China a little bit because a lot of people are obsessed with China, China this, China that, China that. Actually, China is structurally a fairly weak nation, because it has tried to restructure the world by giving loans which cannot be repaid. Look at Maldives. They're in a bad shape. Bangladesh, they cannot repay their loans. Sri Lanka, they cannot repay their loans. Pakistan has taken so much money from China that China doesn't know what to do. Pakistan also doesn't know what to do. And the worst thing that they cannot handle is when Chinese boys fall in love with Pakistani girls. There's something that it's beyond their psyche. But it will always happen when young men and women will be together. Cupid will play its role, and these things are bound to happen. So I wanted to show you the map of China. I had requested. See, the myth and reality of China. Look, the core China is very small. There's a lot of Chinese-occupied Turkestan. There's the Chinese-occupied Tibet. There's the Chinese-occupied Ladakh. There's the Chinese-occupied Mongolia. And that China proper is very small. Then you have Chinese-occupied, Yunnan. There's Chinese-occupied Manchuria. So China is not, because our press is free. There are some great advantages of having a free press. The great advantage of having a free press is that you keep being critical of yourselves. But being critical of yourself is much better than living in a false illusion that I am great, I am great, I am great. Because you don't become great. You become great only when you are being criticized day in and day out. If we did not have, if you were to get, as in some places, then everybody gets 100 on 100, you lose that spark, you lose that incentive. So it's very important to be critical of yourself. And I think the Indian media does a very good job. Sometimes we are over-critical of ourselves. But the point to note is that, as I see it, the next, sorry. Okay. Yeah. You see, the Communist Party of China would not be able to, and I say this in reference to India because our real competition is with China. Our competition is not with the USFA, that's already gone, and Europe is gone, Japan has got such an aging population. There's a book called The Empty Planet, because by this time next year there may be no Japan. There would be a physical area of Japan, but you also need people to be in that area, So that's a challenge. 2 days ago, the defense minister of China was sacked. Sacked without notice. You can't imagine such things happening here. So you can't, the prime minister is very powerful, but you don't see the prime minister sacking the foreign minister and sacking the defense minister without any cause. And the interesting thing is that nobody knows why it happens, which means that you're living in a state of perpetual insecurity, right? So the Communist Party of China, their Belt and Road Initiative is going to lead to major indebtedness, the inability to address COVID, the collapse of rural banks, and all these things that started happening there. So now I will take you to why is India different, why is India unique, and why it is a get, set, go moment for India. There is a get, set, go time. You could be ready for everything. And yet, just at the beginning line, when the chap is going to give that shut button, that shoot button, that is that get, set, go moment. You have to be ready for that get, set, go moment. You have to have, you need to have slept well, you need to have rested well, everything should be in place, and then you have that get, set, go moment. And why is that get, set, go moment here? That get, set, go moment is here because although we are still a nation with a lot of poor people, and I agree with what the Vice Chancellor said, that we need to address that issue. But remember that our middle class today exceeds the number of poor people. In fact, the middle class of India is larger than the middle class of Europe. And just to give you an idea, more Mercedes cars are being sold in India than in Germany today. Right. We have very strong and robust institutions. The judiciary. And the government says we'll do this, the judiciary says you can't do this. At one level you might say that, what is this happening? But the other level it's very good. Everything must be balanced and counterbalanced. Nobody should be very powerful, right? So everybody needs a little check and balance. So the judiciary is there to keep you in check. And the judiciary tells the government, oh, you can't do this. You can do this, you can't do this. And everybody has a recourse to it, right? You have the media, which always can tear apart any government. And remember that the strength of the media actually makes the government better, because then the government knows that, look, it can't take arbitrary actions. You have the UPSC, the Union Public Service Commission. Only the best and brightest can get selected. You can't get into the civil services because because your father was a politician, your father was a film star, you see, if your father is a lawyer, your father is a doctor, you have a much better chance of getting into that profession. Your father is a film star, your mother is a film star, you have a better chance. Politician, yes. But if you crack the UPSC, whether it's the NDA, or it's the IAS exam, or the Forest Service exam, or any exam, you've got to be bright. More than that, you've got to be hardworking. And more than that, you've got to be methodical. So unless you are hardworking and bright and methodical, you're not being able to crack this, and nobody has ever raised the question on the UPSC. The Election Commission. Now you can have controversies about one nation, one vote, hona chahiye, nahi hona chahiye, but nobody has ever said that the way in which elections are conducted is wrong. In fact, the Indian Election Commission is now being asked all over the world to come and help them conduct elections. We've not had a problem. We conduct elections and by evening we declare the result. In fact, the TV channels declare the result even before the election result. So that's the greening of Doon. Whether it is, the relocation of a dairy, whether it is the cutting of trees, whether it is expansion of the area. Sometimes there are major contests, whether trees should be cut or trees should not be cut. It's a big debate, but you cannot do it arbitrarily. You'll have to come out with a justification. Why do I need to do this, right? We've got 300 literature festivals in this country, which again brings about a lot of people to talk, to question, and all dispensations. You have, for instance, in Dehradun itself, you'll have many varieties of people come up and speak. What J. Sai Deepak is going to be speaking is very different from what Manoj Mehta is going to speak. What Gurucharan Das will speak is very different from the vision of India that somebody else will have. The vision of India in Hindi is very different from the vision of India in Punjabi, very different from the vision of India in English. So it's a whole set of paradigms that you have. School enrollment rate is now nearly 100%. Almost every Indian child is going to school. Every Indian girl child is also going to school. I think that's a very important step, very, very important step, because I remember VC Saabs, both the VCs. In 2000, I was at the Brookings Institution working with Stephen Cohen, one of the best experts on India. He's written on the Army of India, the Army of Pakistan. And he says, Sanjeev, there is one big transition that has taken place in this year. I said, what? He says, today, more people in India are literate than illiterate. That happened in the year 2000. In the year 2000, for the first time in the history of our country, more people were literate than illiterate. And unless you have more people literate, you could not have had the IT revolution that we're talking about. We wouldn't have had the jam thing that we're talking about, that Jandhar, the Janadhan, Aadhaar, and the mobile thing that we're talking about would not have happened. You see, so everything is a stepping stone. What is a miracle? A miracle is hard work. A miracle is not a manna from the heaven. A miracle is hard work. So when nations have worked hard, then miracles happen. Today, each and every habitation in this country is electrified. You go to, some of the most interesting, you go to the remotest village in Arunachal Pradesh, and you find there's electricity there. Look at the level of aspiration. Now there are coaching institutes for IIT and JEE in zero in Arunachal Pradesh. You go to Itanagar, you find coaching institutes. You go to Tawang, you find coaching institutes. That is a remarkable thing, you know. And then today we are the fastest growing GDP, 5th largest economy after USA and China, Japan and Germany. We're still far behind in GDP terms, and that's something that we need to correct ourselves, and we will be doing it. But I thought, let me also give you a glimpse, a peep into the past so that we can glimpse into the future. It's very important to understand what we did right and what we did wrong in the last few years. So I put it in subsets of about 15 years, because 15 years is a good time to sort of reconcile and to reconsider what happened. So first of all, 47 to 62, India had just become independent, creation of linguistic states. There was a major agrarian crisis. In fact, as Vice Chancellor Nripinder Singh mentioned to us, that food crisis was there. It might still happen. I would not agree entirely with him on that, because I think that India today has the ability and the potential and the biotechnology to address that. But at that time, it was a real crisis. Disputes on water resources. We had a humiliating defeat in 1962. Remember, a nation cannot overcome a humiliating defeat so easily. But the good thing was that we were able to overcome it in 3 years. I mean, in fact, had we not lost that, had we not lost China so badly, maybe you would not have been able to come out against Pakistan so strongly. So you had Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan, salute to the army, salute to this decisive victory over Pakistan. We had the Green Revolution and the White Revolution. I mean, the NDTV was also set up during the times of Lal Bahadur Shastri. The Green Revolution came in a very big way. And the interesting thing, that is why I say Bharat Bhagya Vidhata. The 3 people who led the Green Revolution, which helped Punjab, Haryana and Western UP, were all South Indians. The agriculture minister was C. Subramanian. Swaminathan was the agricultural scientist. And the agriculture secretary was Sivaraman. He was from Odisha. So, here is 3 very bright people in this country coming together to bring about the transformation of Punjab, Haryana and Western UP through Green Revolution. Right? Great. 79 to 94, this was also the time when we created Bangladesh. This was the time when we abolished the privy purses. This is the time when we had the first Pokhran. This is the time when Sikkim was integrated into India. All these things, when you look back, they look to be little events. But all of them have a great impact on the history, on the development of our consciousness. 79 to 94, not as great a period as the previous one, because we had Assam, we had Punjab, we had Nagaland, we had insurgency, we had so many fault lines. But the important point is that we were able to overcome these fault lines. There are very few nations which have been able to overcome insurgencies as deep-rooted, as strong, and supported by foreign elements as India has been able to do, and that's the strength of the Indian state, of Indian people. I mean, nobody came. It was KPS Gill who sorted out the insurgency in Punjab. He did it with Beyan Singh, right? So we didn't have to import people from outside to help us. So we were able to resolve our own issues ourselves. Then 95 to 2009, you see economic liberalization, really panning out. You see a double-digit growth. A double-digit growth is easy when you have a small base. Today it is not possible to have a double-digit growth, because you already at a double-digit growth when you are already 3.5 trillion is not so easy. But having a double-digit growth when you have a low base is comparatively easy. Literacy levels. And the other thing that happened in this period was that states started competing with each other. Today, Uttarakhand CM has gone abroad, says, please come and invest in Uttarakhand. Yogi Adityanath is saying, come and invest in Uttarakhand, come and invest in UP. Punjab CM is saying, come and invest in Punjab. Karnataka CM is saying, come and invest. So what has opened up? All this investment will come to India. And all this investment is good. So whether investment comes in UP or it comes in Uttarakhand, they'll be, of course, we'd be happier if it came to Uttarakhand. You will get more placements. But you can also go to UP. If there are new factories that come up, if there are new industries will come up, your placements will go up. Everything is connected. Everything is connected. So if there are more factories, there are more establishments, more startups, your placements go up. Right? So, growth of education infrastructure in the education space. When we were growing up, and I think Sanjay Ji and Nripinder Ji would agree, there were hardly any universities, there were hardly any colleges. I mean, today I can say with pride, Khalsa College, there was hardly anything in Jalandhar. There was Khalsa College, and there was DAV College, and there was one little Doaba College. You know, these were the only three. So today, Jalandhar has, I think 10 educational institutions. What did Dehradun have? Dehradun had DAV College, and a DBS College, and an MKP College for girls. Nothing more. Today, there are, I think, 14, 15, 16 universities. 16 universities in Doon. I mean, the number keeps increasing. You can't even, the other day I was seeing, you're meeting with the governor, the chairs had to be brought in to accommodate all the vice chancellors because, the governor is a very active governor. We're very happy to have him as the governor, and he wanted to meet all the VCs. And I think his conference room was slightly short, I think, maybe because so many people were there. Then you see, 2010 to 2025, we have the Gujarat model. And Mr. Modi becomes the Prime Minister. The change, when you change your aspiration level, you suddenly begin to not look at small figures. You see, one is that what are you aspiring for? Are you aspiring to be, just to give you an example, if you are in the confectionery business, you could aspire to set up a small shop. You could aspire to be Kumar Sweets. You could aspire to be Haldiram. You could aspire to be beyond that. You could aspire to be a global brand. So it's not the domain that you are in. It is the vision that you have for that domain which becomes very important. And therefore, what have you seen in recent times? You see, I mentioned about Olympics. Milkha Singh and PT Usha, we revere them. We give them a lot of respect. They could never make it to Olympics. Such was our time that we were even able to celebrate those who came fourth in Olympics. I'm not minimizing the role of either PT Usha or Milkha Singh. The only 8 gold medals that we won so far was in the team game called hockey, and after 70s we started losing that also. Finally, after a long time, today India is planning to host the Olympics in 2036. It crossed the medal tally of 100 in the Asian Games. We moved up the ladder. So nation does not become great only because of its GDP. A nation is great when it can win 100 medals. And then you will have, and I'm sure all of you will be at the prime of your youth when the Olympics takes place in this country. If you remember us, give us a pass. We'll go and watch some matches at that point of time. But the fact is that you see, India is today aspiring to host the Olympics. And that's a quantum leap. It's a quantum leap over Commonwealth Games. The G20 is a quantum leap over any other organization. Now, the way in which India organized the G20 is something to be celebrated. Over 100 meetings, where all, Srinagar, here Uttarakhand, Arunachal, you name it, Banaras, Allahabad, wherever you went, there was G20, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, one earth, one planet, one family. What is it? It's a celebration. So India started looking at things very differently. In fact, although the government of India is still very keen on the UN membership, I think that after G20 and all, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter whether UN gives you the permanent seat or not. You are as strong as your GDP is. You are as strong as your GDP. So all said and done, UK is somebody said it's a third-rate power. I wouldn't say it's a third-rate power. But UK does not count for anything in the global order of things now. It doesn't count for anything in the globe. It's not even the first 5 of the world's economies. If there was a dialogue, I think Rishi Sunak will have to come here rather than a Prime Minister having to go there. It's a world of difference. And between 2025 to 2047, our aspiration is to be a $40 trillion economy. I was looking at the World Bank figures. The World Bank says that you will come to 30, you will not come to 40. It's fine, that doesn't matter. So after you've crossed a certain stage, it doesn't matter whether it is 30 trillion or 40 trillion. The fact is that you have crossed a particular hump. You've crossed a particular hump. And let me tell you again, that in the 60s, all right. Okay, I get so carried away into my own, yeah. So, you see, this is what I was saying. So what will happen is that this 40 trillion will be technology driven. This 40 trillion cannot come from agriculture. This 40 trillion cannot come from construction industry. This 40 trillion will be knowledge driven and technology driven. And this is what the PM has been saying, that it will have to be knowledge driven and technology driven. And how do we do this? And he's mentioned this, that there is the Saptarishi principles which include inclusive development, that is, at the point which the Vice Chancellor had made earlier, that unless we carry the last person along, and that's very important to understand, that you see, for all the political fight that you might say between the UPA and the NDA, between the Congress and the BJP, they're all together when it comes to right to food, when it comes to right to work, the right to employment, the right to education, the right to information. There could be difference of emphasis, but no one can deny these rights. And these are not rights which are given as a grace by some government. These are rights. What is a right? A right is different from a grace because you get grace marks. You get grace marks that, all right, you're not passing, so I'll give you a grace mark. A right is something that you have earned. Therefore, the citizens of India have a right to work. They have a right to information. They have a right to employment. They have a right to education. These are very important rights, and these are rights which are backed by legislation and backed by budgets. You must remember one thing, that you can have a right which is not backed by legislation. You could have a legislation which is not backed by money. So if you have a legislation which says all the good things, but there is no money behind it, that legislation is of no value. Because at the end of the day, it is money that is required. Now, we will still be marginally short of China in 2047. But, marginally short. We will still have some issues as far as our per capita GDP is concerned, but it will be substantially higher. And the number of absolutely poor people and the question of absolute deprivation is no longer a reality that we have to face today. I mean, the last famines that we saw in this country were under the British rule. We've had malnutrition, but we've not had absolute starvation. That's something we need to look at it in the background of what was the situation before. Now I want to talk to you about the factors which will drive India in the next 2 decades. And there are 3 important factors which will drive India. The first of this will be urbanization. India will urbanize in a very big way. And when I say urbanization, I'm not talking about the very big cities, I'm also talking about tier 2 and tier 3 cities. The cities will grow. Now, what will happen? There are always some flip side to anything. That is that some villages will become uninhabited. As you find in Uttarakhand, there are several villages which are losing their youth population. It is inevitable. Now, some people can be very upset about it, that this must be reversed, but I don't see it happening. Now, when I say I don't see it happening, I don't say it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm only telling you what is happening and what is likely to happen, and why just Uttarakhand? Villages in Punjab are losing their youth. I mean, a lot of facilities in Punjab are, so a lot of changes are happening all over the country, which we are not really recognizing. There's going to be the consolidation of rural infrastructure. So today, I mean, the schools in the rural areas, they're going to be consolidated. PHCs will get consolidated. The pressure on rural will become perhaps less. Because what will happen is that the population move will take place from the rural to the urban, and this will have another impact. It will have an impact on politics. You see, the kind of speeches which can be made in a remote district or in a district which has a predominant population of one group, that kind of a speech cannot be made in an urban area. I mean, the speeches that are made in Delhi or Mumbai or in Calcutta are very different from speeches that are made in Muzaffarnagar and Saharanpur and Bulandshahr and in Haryana or in Rohtak or various other places, because you are then catering to a very diverse population. If you have to be an MP from South Delhi or East Delhi, you cannot speak the language of a community. You cannot speak about being a Punjabi, because you are representing several different communities, several different people. So this is going to lead to another churn. The second major thing, which is again linked to urbanization, is very massive migration that will happen. Massive migration that will start happening. Already you see the impact of that migration. And migration will also be driven by demographic changes. There will be states which will have lesser population, there will be states where population will grow. Udiya signboards in Kerala is a remarkable thing. Because the right to education also says that you will teach in the mother tongue. There are already about 17 schools in Kerala which have had to import Udiya teachers to teach the children of migrant labor. So a lot of changes are taking place. Changes which were never anticipated. Changes which were never thought of earlier. It will have an impact on state politics. It will have an impact on panchayats, because the population will change. When the population will change, the politics will change. I mean, who could have thought that the migrant labor in Punjab would also become MLAs? But they have become MLAs. If Rishi Sunak will become the Prime Minister of US, and if we have ministers in Canada, and if we have the mayor in Bremen, if he's going to be an Indian, then so is the internal churn going to take place in our country. Now, the one question is this remote voting thing that the Election Commission is talking about, whether you should be a voter of the constituency that you belong to, or whether you should be a voter where you are now working. Now that's a big debate, it's a big challenge. It has its pluses and minuses, and we can discuss that later. And the third very important factor that's going to bring about a big change is the participation of women in workforce. More and more women are going to join the workforce. In fact, it's going to be, in the next, by 2047, there'll be no gender gap, hopefully there'll be no gender gap, either in terms of participation or in terms of wage rates or in terms of, rising to the top position. Already there are 34% girls in the civil services. I hope that in the next 3, 4, 5 years, it'll soon cross 50%. And I think the 124th Amendment would be to reserve 10% seats for boys in the civil services examination. And that will be passed with unanimity, because boys would have flopped all over. So that will mean the next 10% reservation will be for boys of whatever caste, whatever category, because boys are just not likely to make it. Don't look at it like this, Shivam. You would have crossed the hump, but you'll have to work harder. So, what is the impact of women participating in the workforce? When women will participate in the workforce, marriages will get delayed. Already the age of marriage is now, no teenagers, hopefully child marriages are off, hopefully teenage marriages are also off. So the average age of marriage has moved to mid-20s, right? And it might even get further delayed. There's a steep decline, therefore, in the total fertility rate. So I must mention that India's TFR at 2.1 is less than the required growth rate. So I think our population should stabilize around 2060, if not earlier. And in fact, India's population was expected to peak even further. We've been able to bring it down. And migration, urbanization, it has a direct impact. The highest population growth rate is now happening in the aspirational districts, where you have, and again, when you have a dependence, when you have a preponderance of your dependencies on agriculture, then the likelihood of having more children is high. The manufacturing sector, the nature of the manufacturing industry, the nature of the service sector, the kind of employment that it generates, there are fewer children, but agricultural societies normally tend to have more children. So, what is the other impact of women's participation in workforce? The number of dishwashers, the number of vacuum cleaners, the number of Swiggies, the number of all this will go up. Because women will be participating in the workforce, therefore the FMCG industry will have a very big boost. Because till 20 years ago, how many people had dishwashers at home? How many people had washing machines at home? How many people had vacuum cleaners at home? Because it was unpaid work. It was unpaid work, and nobody recognized the value of that work. In the next 10 years, the value of that work will be recognized. And when the value of that work will be recognized, you will have dishwashers, and you will have, your washing machines, already aa chuki hain, but there will be more washing machines, you will get drying machines, you will get, robots which will clear everything. So the FMC market is going to expand, Swiggies are going to expand, hotels are going to expand, restaurants are going to expand, specialty cuisines are going to expand. So that's all the changes that will start taking place. Okay. Now, I hope I'm not taking too much time. Another 10 minutes? Fantastic. Okay. Now, what will happen is there is going to be the transformation of agriculture. The Vice Chancellor Singh already mentioned about it. Education, IT, robotics, wellness, manufacturing, and energy. Now, these are some of the sectors. These are some of the sectors in which I have been able to identify. Actually, one was to go on for India in 2047. One will need at least 47 hours. And nobody has the patience for 47 hours, so we'll try to compress it. But what is going to happen is, that one view is that so far India was producing for itself. But the time has come that India will perhaps produce in India and feed the world. That's going to be the next step. Agriculture is in the throes of a transition. We are making, and I think over a period of time, agriculture itself, with the introduction of new biotechnology, the new things with value chains that are happening with FPOs and things, And I personally was in favor of the farm laws. That didn't happen, but over a period of time, it'll happen. At agriculture, agriculture incomes do not happen from core agriculture. The incomes in agriculture happen because of the ecosystem around. I mean, at what rate do you get credit? At what rate do you get your fertilizer? Is your crop insured? See, today, something which is very remarkable that has happened is that, I've been agriculture secretary in 2 states. But I tell you today, every farmer in this country gets his allocation at the stroke of a pen through DBT. Almost every farmer in this country has a soil health card. Almost every farmer in this country has a soil health card, Kisan health card, Kisan credit card, and the insurance thing linked in. Now, these are not changes which have been brought about by the farmer. These are changes which are there in the ecosystem. But these are the ecosystem changes which will impact the productivity, production, and thereby the incomes of farmers. Right? So this PM Fasal Bima Yojana, coupled with the Kisan credit card, coupled with the soil health card, all this will create that complex. I'll not talk about the gross enrollment ratio because we already talked about it. But as far as the IT sector is concerned, the IT sector should touch about 1 trillion by 2030. We are at 800 billion. We are already at 800 billion, so we should be touching this figure. And as was pointed out recently by Ajay Chaudhary of the HCL, so far we were only focusing on the software part. We had somehow or the other ignored the hardware part, we had ignored the silicon chip part, but now the government is very keen that this gap, because you not only need to have the hardware, you need to have the software, you need to have the humanware, so all this should get into. And remember, we have the cheapest 5G service in the world, cheapest, and it is going to become even cheaper. Now, without such a cheap 5G service, without such smartphones, you could not have had this great revolution that we are talking about. Now, let's look at wellness. Not only will we have the world's highest number of allopathic doctors, engineering colleges, medical colleges, nursing colleges, this yoga, Ayurveda, Unani, and all these things, all these are going to play a very, very important role. I mean, you see, today, the alternate systems are not getting that recognition in the world. But Hadad Beheda Amala are going to be transforming the world of pharmaceuticals and nutraceuticals in the years to come. And remember that it's a strong political lead. See, 20 years ago, if India had said that no, yoga is good, they would have said yes, yoga is good. But today when we say yoga is good, they say, all right, let's celebrate a day for yoga. And everybody starts doing the yoga. So that's the difference between when you're strong and when you're not strong. No, a lot of things can happen only now, because it's only now that we become strong. Remember that Abhimanyu issue? If you enter into the battle without knowing how to get out of it, you're a loser. So we've now reached the stage where we can enter and we can know when to exit. In the case of manufacturing, China, no country today wants to develop only on China. So it's China plus one. And the most preferred country in China plus one is India. And the other thing about this is that nobody has this kind of a domestic demand. I mean, if you make Nokia, where will you sell it? If you make your Mercedes, where will you sell it? If you make your Levi's jeans, where do you sell it? So you, being the largest consumer of the world, largest consumer with a growing and a rising purchasing power, again gives us a potential which others did not have. And remember that one of the emphasis which the Prime Minister has been giving, which everybody has been giving, is on Gati Shakti, that your logistics cost must come down. So from 13% to about 4 to 5%, the day your logistics costs come down, our manufacturing becomes even better. So it is not what you manufacture in a unit. It is how you get your raw material. It is how you send the finished product. It is the seamless chains which will affect that. That's going to make the very big difference. And now I'll show you the energy scenario. Oh. So as Vice Chancellor and Bhinder Singh had told you, that we are making that transition towards clean energy, towards, next one please. Yeah. Next one. So this is our energy scenario. You see, you find that today our dependence on coal is very high. Our dependence on coal is very high, but we are trying to reduce our dependence on coal. We are increasing our RE, the renewable energy, and India is a solar power. I mean, the sun has been so partial to us. I mean, the sun has been so good to us, you know. And can you imagine a situation where solar air conditioning becomes the order of the day? And if solar air conditioning could happen, I mean, you're saving. I mean, look at the quantum jumps that you will ever get, you know. So this is the scenario. And remember that we have promised. And today the world looks at India. I mean, almost till the International Solar Alliance came up in India, where are the headquarters of any agency? UNESCO headquarters, Paris. You know, IEA, Vienna. You know, Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, Washington. So all our international agencies were either in Washington or in Geneva or in London or in Paris or in Tokyo. And the International Solar Alliance is based out of India. And when you have international headquarters in your country, it does make a little bit of a difference, right? So India's dependence on OPEC is going to go down. India's dependence on several other institutions go down. Our dependence on ourselves is going to increase. Next, please. Okay, now we must remember that it's not always rosy. We also must look into what are the challenges. How are we going to handle some of the difficult situations? Because it will be wrong for anybody to say that everything is a smooth ride. Nothing can ever be a smooth ride. I mean, generally the direction is right, and yet there will be some issues, there will be some problems along the way, which if it doesn't happen, then you're talking about a utopia. The fact is that political parties will have different priorities, and these priorities will change over time. But the good thing is, and as I mentioned, that when it comes to some of the most important amendments, including the latest one on Women's Reservation Bill, or 10% quota for economic backwardness and right to food, education, information and work, cutting across party lines. They may have said something, they may have said why that this is Women's Reservation Bill, instead of 15 years it could have been for 25 years, instead of 1/3 it could have been 1/4. I mean, these are all the minor things, but the fact is that there was a consensus on the Women's Bill. On the humanitarian aid to Palestine, there is a general consensus in this country that we have to combat China by forming an alliance with the Quad, that is with USA, Japan and Australia. The four nations have to come together to combat China. We have a consensus on this. That delimitation has to be postponed. There is a major consensus on this. There are some fault lines, North versus South. You know, because what is happening is that the population of the North is still growing, the population of the South is stabilized. Therefore, if census is held, census will be held, and after the census, the delimitation will be held, you will have a scenario, we can have a scenario when the number of seats from the northern region will go up, and the number of seats from the southern region will go down, proportionately. Whereas the economy, in terms of economic power, the South is becoming stronger, and the North is not as strong. So there is bound to be some political asymmetry. But there are ways to handle this by perhaps rationalizing the posts in the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, because Lok Sabha we can't handle. So differences in TFR, more population growth in some of the more backward regions and some areas. There are fewer MPs from urban areas, whereas the urban contributes much more to the economy. Remember that when India became free, bulk of the income came from agriculture. Today, bulk of the Indian does not come from agriculture. Less than 15% of our income comes from agriculture today. So this is a political thing that will happen. There will be this whole discussion about reservations, whether creamy layer should be introduced in all reservations or should it be limited to OBCs. We have boundary disputes with Pakistan, China, Bangladesh. There can be disruption in river flows. But these are all things that we need to understand and examine. Now, there are issues on which political parties disagree. You must know that also. One nation, one vote, old pension scheme, determination of, and the big debate that's now happening in the country is whether the country will be, whether your identity comes from your caste, or whether it comes from your denomination, whether it comes from your class. How does your identity come? And my own view is that as urbanization grows, these old descriptors of your identity will become different. So you are a Mumbaikar, you are a Dehradunwala, or you are a Delhi wala. So that Delhi wala, that Mumbai wala will override your core identity of having come from Garhwal or having come from Rajasthan or having come from UP. So I have a positive take on this. I feel that by 2047, India will be more than 50% urban, and therefore the dynamics of an urban area would be very different from the dynamic of a rural area. So friends, finally, the last slide is that on the whole, in balance, we are poised to grow exponentially. And the difference between a normal growth and an exponential growth. When you are growing from 3%, 4%, 5%, so we are going on an exponential growth series in all spheres. The challenges that we have are not insurmountable. There are two types of challenges. There are challenges which you can handle, and there are challenges which you cannot handle. Challenges which you can handle create that little creative tension. If you have a tough question, but at the end of an hour or 2 hours you can solve it, then there's a sense of excitement. If you get too easy a paper, then like the last match that we had with Pakistan, what was the fun in it? There's no maza hi nahi aaya usme, because your team goes out, but the last match was much more fun because it was the last moment contest, whether it happened this way or that way, especially when Kohli got out. So the tension increases. So our challenges are not insurmountable challenges. They're challenges, and some amount of challenge should be there in society. Demographic dividend is on our side. The soft power of Bollywood, Tollywood, Collywood, and all the films that are being made, it's fantastic. I never thought that, that Hindi films in Chennai, or, Tamil films in the north, or Testo sisters, talking about Gedi in Patiala, and the Nagam, in the beautiful Punjabi, Nagas speaking Punjabi songs going all over, Haryanvi humor, being the cutting edge humor. So all these are marks of a nation which is celebrating itself. Democratization of content. The content that you see every day today is democratized. So you are not only getting one side of the story. You're getting 10 sides of the same story. With every newspaper, every editorial, citizen journalists are giving you different views. Last but not the least is our ability to evolve a consensus. We are in a position to evolve a consensus. When you say evolving a consensus does not mean that everybody is equally happy. The very point of being able to evolve a consensus is that nobody is vehemently disagreeing with you. Consensus will never mean that everybody will equally agree with you. Let me be very clear about that. And we cannot have that situation. That situation does not happen in the family also. It cannot happen amongst your class fellows, among your hostel mates. You will never make everybody equally happy. But if you can evolve a consensus, it means that there are no great disagreements, that you sort of manage to adjust. That's something which we've been able to do, and our ability to ask and resolve difficult questions. I think that's the strength of India, that's the strength of Bharat, that's the strength of Hindustan. Thank you very much.
And thank you, sir, for providing us such a profound idea of the concept of a nation. Your wisdom and insights have enlightened and inspired us to appreciate our nation and the beauty of our nation that comes from its diversity and future potential. I thank you, sir. Now I open the session for question and answers if anybody is interested in asking any question.
Very good morning, sir. First of all, thank you so much for such a wonderful discussion with us. And my question to you is, being a student of political science, my question is how you see the change in Indian foreign policy in next 25 years, especially in the context of our neighbors in South Asia. Like we have seen recently that countries in BIMSTEC are demanding visa-free access in our nation. And to sum up the question, in which direction our foreign policy is heading? Like, will it be more regional centric, or if so, what are the challenges ahead apart from the Pakistan issue? Thank you so much.
Too many questions in one question. Hello. See, one thing is that the SARC is dead, and the SARC will not evolve very much as long as, you see, but one thing I must tell you, that everything is very dynamic. I mean, so far, why our relations with Pakistan have not improved? Our relations with Pakistan are not improved because in Pakistan it's the army which runs the government. In all other countries, the government has an army. In Pakistan, the army has a government. Now, the first statements of Nawaz Sharif are very conciliatory towards us. The Pakistan army is also losing its ground. So in case, and in fact, let me be very clear, I mean, it is not that India wants to have a permanent enmity with Pakistan. We would be happy to be friends with Pakistan, and the core issue of conflict being Kashmir, right, from their point of view. Now, if as Mr. Nawaz Sharif is saying that Pakistan will not be able to grow if it is in a permanent enmity with India, that might change the equation with Pakistan also. You see, foreign policy is a function of not just what you want to do, it's also a question of what the other person wants to do. I mean, till about 6 months ago, we didn't think that we'll have such a big fight with Canada. You know, we never thought about it. But today, amongst the countries that are red flag are Canada. It's predicting foreign policy is slightly more difficult, but certainly I agree with you that BIMSTEC is going to be very important. And as far as visa-free access is concerned, it's a matter which we will have to, give conditional. Already what is happening is that, as you find in the case of Indians going to the UAE or abroad, many times we'll have to put some conditions. For example, we could say that all teachers, all businessmen above a particular income, all students, we could think of a visa-free access for all those who are not likely to settle in India. But those who are likely to come and settle in India, it will be very difficult to give them visa-free access because our northeast states have very fragile demographic situations. For instance, when people will come, they'll come even into Mizoram. Mizoram is very upset with anybody else coming in because unlike very large communities, they are very small groups of people. So a complete visa-free regime will be very difficult to handle. But giving liberal visas for those who are likely to return, those who are likely to come to India for a very specific purpose, for a very specific period, or for doing business, that is something that I think is likely to happen. I hope I have answered all your questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, my question is, researchers have shown that almost 90% of Earth's precious topsoil is likely to be at risk by 2050. And you mentioned that urbanization of rural and unviable region.
Okay, let me just come to the first part. You see, what happens is that, this is a very old debate between Malthusians and Prometheans, and Malthusians felt, that the earth will never have the ability to feed so many people. You see, look at the new things. I mean, you look at polyhouses, you look at irrigation, you look at, micro irrigation, you look at many of these things. So a lot of things, the whole assumption that agriculture is going to be based on topsoil, it's a bit questionable because a lot of new technologies are moving in. I mean, if you look at the productivity, say in Israel, Israel was a total desert, right? Total desert. So you transform those deserts by introducing new technologies. Vegetarian meats are coming into being. So many things are happening. So let's not look at, agriculture is not static. Nothing in the world remains static. You see, who could have thought that from the same field you will get 4 crops a year or 6 crops a year? If you go to some of these Indo-Israel centers for excellence across the country, you will find that in polyhouses and micro irrigation, agriculture is getting transformed. In fact, today itself there is a beautiful article on the controversy on the Satluj-Jamuna link canal, because both Punjab and Haryana are asking for water. In the case of Teesta, both Bangladesh and India are asking for water. The out-of-box solution, you actually don't need so much water. You actually need micro irrigation, which could be capital intensive. So we have to look at, solutions may come from out of the box. So that is my suggestion about this. You see, for example, areas which are today not receiving water, till today in India, 2/3 of our country does not get water on its land. We are only in Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, we are fortunate that there is a Ganga, there is a Jamuna, and we see water around us. You go deeper, you go to parts of Maharashtra, go to Madhya Pradesh, go to Chhattisgarh, go to several areas, there is no water. So the moment water comes to those areas, you will suddenly find agricultural productivity going up. Today, Uttarakhand government has just thanked the Prime Minister for including that river in Nainital. That will increase the irrigation to about 10 lakh acres of land. So that is a boost to productivity. So logistics, various things and several things. So I think addressing those issues will also have a direct impact on this. Now to your second question.
Sir, you have mentioned that the urbanization of rural and unviable land and bulk of people nowadays doesn't come from agricultural background. So India is a nation with agricultural economy basically.
Used to be, no longer.
Okay. And sir, how would you graph the future of India as an agricultural nation by 2050?
You see, even today, in the US or in Europe, not more than 3% to 4% do agriculture. That does not make them a weak agricultural nation. Just because a lot of people are working on agriculture does not make you a strong agriculture. What makes you a strong agricultural nation is when you have the technologies and the resources and the ability to produce more out of the same tract of land. So that is the major challenge. And what kind of food are we talking about? Today our cereal production is already plateaued. Today we need more milk, we need more eggs, we need more protein. These are the sort of areas in which the next set of incomes will start happening. So, both things will start happening. And let me tell you, when I say that villages will get depopulated, it's a fact because economic opportunities are less. And people would always want to move towards, it's a very simple equation. Wherever there'll be higher growth, higher opportunities, more choices. In fact, let me also put it like this. You have more choices in the urban than you have in the rural. And therefore, people will move there. The other trend will also be that maybe people after putting in 20, 30 years may want to go back and settle in their villages. I come from Kapurthala. Why haven't I stayed in Kapurthala? Because there was no college. There was no medical college. There was no engineering college. There was no university there. At that point of time, we didn't even have a decent college in Kapurthala. So one had to come to Jalandhar. So one moves on and on and on. So when you have cities and towns, and why is Dehradun on the upswing? Dehradun is on the upswing because it's an education city, and therefore it will beat any other city in the neighborhood. 20 years, at some point of time you were part of Saharanpur. You were in the Saharanpur. You were part of the Saharanpur Commissionerate. Now where is Saharanpur vis-a-vis Dehradun? I hope you are not from Saharanpur. Next.
Hello, good afternoon, sir. This is Viksit Rajput, and I have two questions. Basically, as you have covered in the PPT, that the middle class is increasing in India, but the problem is when the growing in middle class, the people are shifting to the international brands, and there could be a reason that the MSME sector that the government is working on right nowadays, they may suffer. Because if the purchase power of the people will increase, they will go for the, you can say they will go for the brands, or you can say the international brands. So like how the businesses should focus on it so that they can tackle more middle class and they can stop people, or they can stop them.
I get you.
Shift
See, it's a very interesting situation. But look, there are brands like Manyavar today, and in fact, you see something which would never happen 20 years ago. Ethnic dressing in India is coming up in a very, very big way. It's coming up in a very big way, and I foresee a future where Indian brands will be, and in fact, Indian brands are going to be playing a very, very important role. And in fact, half the brands which are being globally marketed are made in Bangladesh or Vietnam or India. So, what is an international brand? An international brand is one which has a perceived value, right? And I personally feel that in India also you soon want to have people will start accepting Indian brands also, and it's for you and me. It depends on whom Virat Kohli advertises for.
And my another question is regarding the deglobalization, as it is also a concern going on. So, like how deglobalization have an impact on the MSME, because that's the...
You see, the growth in India is not going to come from manufacturing; it's going to come from services. Our core competence lies in services, not so much in manufacturing also, because in manufacturing other countries will be almost at par with us. it will be in advanced computing and services, allied sector, education, health, wellness, cuisines, tourism. These are the areas where we really have a much greater competitive advantage. I mean, Bangladesh and Vietnam may always be able to give us a run as far as the textile units are concerned. Leather industry, a lot of people will be able to give us a run, but they will not be able to give us a run when it comes to advanced computing, because in order to have an IIT, in order to have an IIM, in order to have a graphic era, in order to have a Shiv Nadar, in order to have an OP Jindal, you need very deep pockets, and you need a core strength. So where do you get? I mean, here we have how many students now? 10,000? 10,000? 50? 50? Not 50. Around 50. Around 30 plus. So you can create these campuses. I mean, I've just been to OP Jindal, just been to Shiv Nadar, just been to Ashoka. So these are all because the strength of our numbers is such that we can have viable institutions. This is what will drive the economy of our country.
So just on the basis of service, we can't attain that goal that we are deciding for 2047. Just based on the services, I don't think so.
No, it's not all services. Agriculture will always be there. I mean, agriculture will always be there. But instead of about 40% people dependent on agriculture, the number of people dependent on agriculture will become less, and the share of agriculture in the economy will come down even from 15% to about 5, 6, 7%. That does not mean that in absolute terms it's going to become less. You see, in absolute terms, it's a very simple thing. After all, how much can you produce on the soil? But when it comes to graphic arts, when it comes to design, when it comes to books, when it comes to OTT, when it comes to making a film, when it comes to the number of times you can watch a film, I mean, there is no limit to the number of films that can be made, right? The number of songs that are being created, the number of lyrics that are being produced. So that is what will drive the economy much more. Take a very simple example. You have a farmer who has got 5 acres of land, and his son sets up a dhaba on the roadside. Who's going to make more money? The dhaba is going to make more money because of the fast movement. I mean, you see, in agriculture, you can make your money only 2 times a year or 3 times a year. And that also in agriculture, you realize that those who grow wheat and rice can earn only twice a year. But those who are growing strawberries and short gestation crops are going to get it 3 times a year, 4 times a year, 5 times. So it's not just the money, it is the turnover. It's how many times that currency moves that's going to make a lot of difference.
Good afternoon, sir. First of all, thanks for the great lecture. And you have mentioned in the PPT, young population is shifting from villages to the more developed city, basically for the new opportunities, which I believe that is great for their development as well. But I believe there is a problem as well. I'm from the Punjab background, and I have seen so many of my friends basically not opting from Indian colleges. Basically, they are directly opting for the abroad, which is maybe great thing for them, but as a citizen of this country, I believe this is a negative thing for the country because eventually we are going to lose a great amount of human resource which could help our country so much to achieve this goal.
Absolutely, you're right there. It's a matter of concern. It's a matter of concern, but you see, the point is that if just as people will move from the villages to the urban areas, I mean, today we have about 7.5 lakh people who go abroad every year for studies. Of them, about 3 to 4 lakh come back and 3 to 5 lakhs remain there, right? And my own feeling is that, you see, as India continues to grow at 7-8%, many of them will start coming back. You see, already if you ask those who go to Canada or to other places in recent time, the going is not very easy. The going is not very easy. It's pretty tough. It's pretty tough, you see. So, and economic opportunities will grow here as well. So it's a question of comparative economic opportunity. I would say that if India continues to grow at the rate we are growing, people who have gone abroad might also want to come back. And if they come back, it is very good. If they don't come back, that's also fine. I mean, we are so big, we can afford it. There's no problem. The problem happens with countries like Nepal. Nepal ka bada mazedar situation hai. The population is 3 crore, of which more than half is abroad. I mean, that situation can never happen to India.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for a valuable time. Sir, my question is that in next 25 years, in the pursuit of economic and growth and development, are we losing on the aspects of culture and the social beliefs, or particularly the family structure? The things which are more talking in the Indian society, that Indian society is basically known for their values and their belief structures and religious and all things. So what is the face of that thing in next 25 years?
That will change. That will change. I mean, the joint family system is already on the verge of breaking up. I mean, these things will change. But you see, you can't have the cake and eat it too. Families also mean that your choices are limited. So both these things will work. So I don't see the. And yet there will be some uniquely Indian values that will remain. But very simple thing. Nowhere in the world would a child refer to a person who comes to the house as uncle or auntie. Because they will use their first names. In our country, we are so used to relating to everybody as Masi, Tau, Chacha, Didi or Bhai, Behan or whatever, Dadu, Tau. So for us in India, the relationship, we have always looked at each other in terms of a relationship. For India, therefore, to call everybody an uncle or an auntie, is a very common thing. You don't have to teach it to anyone. So these aspects will remain, certain aspects will go, certain aspects will remain. You see, you can't have everything in life. Because all of you are now studying in English. All of us have learned a lot of English, so it will be at the cost of some language. You see, in fact, the growth of Hindi is at the cost of Maithili and Garhwali and Kumaoni. Because this is bound to be. So, but it's okay. I mean, so many things will keep changing. We'll have to accept it.
So because there are many things especially if I mention the community Gen Zs, studies have shown they are struggling to maintain their studies, or they are in a more depressive state, or in next 5 to 10 years these Gen Zs will be in more depression, or they are more bound to be that. So how they can tackle this situation, or how they can become more powerful?
You see, what will happen is that there is bound to be frustration in society. There will be suicides, there will be mental depression, there will be difficulties that we will face. Those are things that we'll have to accept. I'm not saying that it will happen, but you see, point is that when you raise such levels of expectation, we have to sort of learn to manage it. I mean, everybody who goes to Kota thinks that he's going to join the IIT. I mean, of all the 10 lakh people who sit for the civil service, the ability and possibilities, I think a lot of our counseling at universities, at colleges, at family level, have to be to explain our young generation there's a difference between probability and possibility. It is possible to do many things, but the probability is not all that great, and we have to learn to live it.
Like having a more practical approach.
Yes.
Let us have the last question for the session. We are running out of time.
Good afternoon, sir. It's a pleasure to be in the same room as yours, as I have read all your books so far.
Oh, thank you. I'll write some more.
It's a pleasure, sir. And I'm a research scholar here in political science with the broad area of education administration. So it's genuine for me to ask with that respect only. What's your take on the National Education Policy 2020 and its the vision of employability that it holds for students, of including research on an early age of education and not taking it as far as the end of masters or having an MPhil or having a PhD to go for a research as career?
You see, it's a very, very intelligent question, and let me put it like this, that it depends on the capacity of the universities and the states to handle that. We have several states in our country, several districts in the country where the infrastructure is so poor, including some districts of Uttarakhand, that the NEP has no meaning. So, as I said, is it a policy backed by funds? Is it a policy which is backed by things? And in that I find that in some places it is backed by funds. Some private universities will do very well with the NEP because it gives you tremendous flexibility. And yet, I will not name some colleges and some universities in our own state which just do not have the wherewithal to implement it. You see, just not possible. I mean, when I go around to some of the rural areas in our own districts, including the remote village schools, where is the infra to do it? Where is the infra to do it? It's all very nice, but the point is there's nothing wrong with the policy. It's a good policy. It's an advanced policy. It's a wonderful policy. It'll certainly work in Delhi. It'll certainly work in Dehradun. It'll certainly work in Chandigarh. Whether it can work in Kotkapura, I don't know. Whether it can work in Uttarkashi, I don't know. Whether it can work in Mokokchung, I don't know. So our issue about our country is that everything that you say about anything is true, and the opposite is also equally true. So the NEP, as far as you are concerned, I mean, you are in a good university. Here it makes a lot of sense, but if you were elsewhere, it may not make the same level of sense. That's why the Bihar government has a different take. Many people have a different take. So it's going to be very specific to the university that you belong to the state that you belong to.
Agreed with sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And sir, through this platform, I would encourage all the young people out here, please relate your discipline with policy sciences and try to study so that all of you can come out with your own employment through research. And this is really commendable to be a part of this institution that promotes research so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, audience, for your questions. And now I invite Dr. Sanjeev Chopra, VC GEHU, to present a memento to our chief guest today. Sir, please say a few words also. Sir, few words. Now I invite Dr. Rajesh Prasad Verma, Nodal Officer of AICTE and Faculty in Charge, to deliver the vote of thanks. Please, sir.
Very good afternoon, respected Chief Guest Sir, Vice Chancellor Sir, and present dignitaries, all the teachers, and my dear students. I am honored and grateful to be able to present a vote of thanks on this memorable occasion. The event titled Amrit Kaal Vimarsh, Viksit Bharat by 2047 is a series of seminars planned by the Ministry of Education, Government of India, as desired by the PMO, to be delivered in the higher education institutions in collaboration with the AICTE. The series of seminars is planned in selected campuses throughout the country, and the Graphic Era deemed to be university is one of the higher education institutions which is the part of that series. On the behalf of Graphic Era, I would like to thank AICTE for the collaborating us the part of series of the seminars Amrit Kaal Vimarsh. Today, the talk by Sanjeev Chopra sir was the address the transformative developments that have built the groundwork for Viksit Bharat by 2047. The talk be emphasized on the roadmap for the development and success of India. Also, he had mentioned the measuring parameter, multiple parameters of measuring the success of nations was very interesting. The analysis of geography of China and the uniqueness of India was very interesting, sir. The presentation on the development of India through the glimpse into our future was very fantastic. The driving factors we have discussed, sir, urbanization, migration, and women's participation in the workforce in the next 2 decades is very important view. I would like to express my deep gratitude to you, sir. It was a great talk, sir. And and I believe that the objective of the seminar is made greatly. I would like to call attention our President Sir, Dr. Kamal Ghansala Sir has always emphasized on the best use of technological advancements and information technology by the youth in order to realize their dreams. Graphic Era always advocates that the young must innovate in order to contribute to the country's overall growth, progress and development. And I believe that it definitely helps to accomplish the aim of Viksit Bharat. I would like to express my deep gratitude to our President, sir. I am very much thankful to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Ravinder C. sir. Words are not enough to thank his constant guidance and support to shape the event. I also convey deep regards and very thanks to Honorable Vice Chancellor, Graphic Era University, Professor Sanjeev Chopra Ji, who blessed us with his presence, and he has initiated this program. I am also thankful to the management of GU for continuous guidance, giving the necessary administrative approval for organization of the event. I would like to thank all the honorable delegates and students who blessed us with their presence. I also like to thank the members of organizing committee for their efforts. Again, I would like to thank everyone who took part in the event here and also on the online streaming of the university YouTube channel. Now, I would request to stand for the national anthem. Thank you.
Jana Mana Adhinayaka Jaya He Bharat Bhagya Vidhata Punjab Sindh Gujarat Maratha Dravida Utkal Vanga Vindhya Himachal Yamuna Ganga Uchala Jaladhi Taranga Tava Shubha Name Jage शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तब जय गाथा जन गण मंगल दायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
भारत माता की
Please pay attention. Some of the students are please requested to stay back. Some of them can proceed, but few of the students please remain seated. Few students please stay back for video bites of the event. We need your feedback. Please stay back. Be seated, please.
Some students are required to stay here. We need a short bite, which will be shared to the AICTE and UGC about that program. 5-6 who is interested to give the bite, please stay here.
जहाँ मर्जी खड़ा कर लो। लाओ इधर से लाओ नहीं पकड़ाना नहीं हो जाए
अरे यार इनकी ना लीडर देना
हाँ हाँ आजो बुलाओ कैमरा यही रहेगा
आज 1 by 1 2 मिनट 5 मिनट जैसा आपको लगे वैसा मतलब क्या होगा आपने क्या सीखा क्या लर्निंग आउटकम बना और कोई ऐसा पार्ट जो शब्द रहा हो जो आपको बताना चाहिए सर लाइट बिना माइक के
इधर ही आ जाओ भाई जी बिना माइक के बोल रहे फिर तो पास में जाओ भैया और आगे आ जाओ आप भैया आगे
यहाँ पे ठीक है
हाँ हाँ वॉल्यूम नहीं आएगी भाई बिना माइक के
थोड़ा नहीं तो ऐसी जोर से बोल दे रहे ये
तुम्हें कैमरा थोड़ा हाई पिक्चर हो
जैसे मैं बोल रहा हूँ जिस आवाज़ में उसमें ठीक है
यहाँ पे आओ
आएगी नहीं आएगी
ठीक है बोलना सर मैं यार
बोलो
नाम बताएंगे
हाँ बता सकते हो माय नेम इज
हाँ बोलो
जितना चाहिए होगा वहाँ पे हम बोल सकते हैं अच्छा मैं इसमें बोल लूँ हाँ बढ़िया क्लियर हो जाएगा
हाँ रेडी रेडी भैया
Hello, my name is Sanjeev Chopra Ji, and it was a great experience. I really enjoyed the session given by sir, and I would like to focus a couple of points that I really liked it. The thing about the growth that India is going to have, the target that we are going to have by 2040, 2045, and sir also talked about the geographical context. He was also talking about the different sectors, whether it's a service or it's agriculture or it's manufacturing. So it was a great event and I appreciate it. Thank you.
अपने सवाल के रिगार्डिंग भी आप बोल सकते हैं कि
Fine.
ओके
Good afternoon. This is Bharat. And first of all, I have to say that was really a great event, and basically all the students have learned so many things. And I personally am very much positive about the growth of India, and I believe within the upcoming 20-30 years, India is going to, Indian economy is basically going to skyrocket, and Indian economy is still doing very well. But the main problem basically I feel is India is somewhere lacking in manufacturing sector, and due to the efforts of current government, I believe this problem is eventually going to solve in the upcoming years, and Indian economy is really going to do well. And these are some of the points basically sir have already mentioned, and actually I personally enjoyed the lecture as well. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm sure.
So I will.
अरे आपको
So first of all, I would like to thank to the Graphic Era committee that they have managed such a beautiful session with Dr. Sanjeev Chopra sir. And sir has mentioned beautiful aspects that how India can perform very well in the coming 25 years. Although India is doing very good in all aspects, but still India holds very robust potential in itself. So all we need to do is identifying them and acting upon them rightly, and so that we can become a powerhouse or we can guide the world. Because we say a concept like Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the whole world is a one family, and India truly holds the potential to lead the whole world. So that's all. Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much.
आप आगे आओ एक मिनट रुको आप
Thank you for the valuable time, sir. It was a good meeting, it was a good lecture. I'd say that there was a initiative that we, the youth of the country, can put our hands in the making of the country more developed and more enhanced, flourished. As we had heard from the lecture that it is a good thing that there are many factors for the country's flourishment, like the IT sector, the migration, and the agriculture sector is also influencing more other sectors.
And I would also want to add the artificial intelligence influence and its impact on the many other sectors of the country that also are making the Viksit Bharat that we are in right now. And yeah, that's it. Thanks.
So, first of all, I would like to thank my university for organizing such a wonderful event, and overall the session was very interactive, and at the last we also have interactive question and answer session. The most interesting thing that I have learned in this session is this quote, that if you are not busy living, you are busy dying. Thank you so much.
First of all, I would like to thank the Committee of Graphic Era for organizing such a great session with Dr. Sanjeev Chopra sir. It was a highly interactive session. He mentioned several aspects of Indian society and its development. He answered my question greatly with various examples as well. I asked him about the agricultural sector, as he already served the agricultural sector in more than one state, I suppose. And it was a good session with him. I would like to see such more upcoming sessions with other great leaders and speakers as well. Thank you.
वेरी गुड, बहुत अच्छे से आप लोगों ने सवाल पूछा, और ये होता है कि मेन मन में सवाल होता है लेकिन हम पूछ नहीं पाते, और वो भी मौके पे। वेरी गुड, ऑल द बेस्ट।
एक मिनट सर। हाँ, यस।
Good morning. My name is Yatharth Joshi, and I am assistant professor in the Department of Mechanical Engineering. And I attended the session of Dr. Sanjeev Chopra sir, and it was a very eye-opening, you can say, session. And now my thinking regarding my country, how I should act and contribute to the country and the society where I'm living in. This has completely changed me right now in the last 1.5 hours. And as a faculty, I'd like to see similar more with sir, and we can say it is a very great exposure to our students, that they are getting such a kind of intellect with such great person. And the topics which were covered were very much in a very much better sequential manner. And right from the independence of the country to the present situation was depicted in a very appropriate manner, which can give a very good insight to the students regarding how the country must be there in 2047. So this is it from my side. Thank you.
ठीक है सर। सर तो ये